here from Hand Crochet, and I'm really excited today to show you how I make my Eyelet Lace Tee. It's a really simple summer top pattern which is just made up of two rectangles that you then seam either side at the top for your shoulders, and then at the sides I left the bottom section undone just for a little kick out flare there, and then you can make your armholes. It's meant to be really loose fitting and nice and bright and breezy, but you can make your armholes as deep as you like. So the top is worked from the top downwards. We have this detailed section here, then a plainer section in the middle, and then the detailed section comes back again for the bottom cuff. The pattern is free on my blog and it comes in sizes extra small to 5x. There's also an option to purchase the PDF which I've put together as well, and I'll put all the link and the details for the blog in the description here. So the stitches that you're going to need to know to make this top are, in US terms, a single crochet, because we have these rows of single crochet here, and then a long treble stitches and chains, and they're the only things that you'll need to know. So all the details are in the pattern or on the blog, but you will need some double knit cotton yarn, or yarn of your choice to make it. I've chosen It's Pure Cotton by James C. Brett. You'll need a 4mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors and a needle for your ends. All the yarn quantities that you'll need are on the blog. There's also a section on how to customise your top. So if you'd like to change any aspect of it, the width, the length, neckline, armholes, then there's a whole section of how you can go about doing that too. To begin the top, we're going to make a slip knot on the hook, and then you need to refer either to the blog or to the pattern, the PDF, to see how many chains you need to make your size. For this sample, for this example, I'm just going to do a swatch to show you how the stitch pattern works. But as long as you get the correct number of chains and then stitches at the beginning of your row for your size, you'll be absolutely fine. So I'm going to chain, if I was going to make an extra small, for example, I would chain 60. But for this example, I'm going to chain 21. And so now, working back along your foundation chain, I like to work in the back bumps here. I'm going to work a single crochet into the second chain from the hook, and then each along. So you'll have one less than your foundation chain when you finish that. So as an example, if you're working the extra small size, you'll start with 60 chains, and then at the end of this row, row 1, you're going to have 59 stitches. So at the end of row 1 and at the end of every row, we're going to turn to start our next row. So we begin row 2, which is going to be our right side, with however you want to start a row basically. Various different people like different ways, so I'll show you a few options. In the pattern I have said to chain 3, because we're going to be working long stitches, and then that chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch, it just kind of sits there ready for you to use in the seaming, and then you're going to work your stitch into that first stitch, so you just ignore that chain 3 you've made. That's one option. Another option is to work a chain 1 and then work up to the height, just stretch the stitch. Or the third option is to do a stacked stitch, which means, because we're going to be working a US treble stitch here, you're going to need 4 stacked stitches. So we don't chain 1, you just work straight into the stitch you want it, and you work a single crochet. and then into this loop of that stitch you're going to work another single crochet, so it sits on top of it, and then your third one will go into that loop of that single crochet, and then your fourth one will go into the last one you made there, and that is a stacked stitch. These work really nicely, I think, if you're not if you are, or if you're not planning on seaming actually, but in the pattern I've written a chain 3 because I know not everyone is comfortable with stacked stitches, so do whatever you feel comfortable with. So now we need to work a treble stitch in the next stitch, so we're going to yarn over twice, working into the next stitch along, pull through a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and that's a treble stitch in US terms, and it's a double treble in UK terms. So now we're ready to begin our detailing. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to skip the next stitch, and then we're going to work a treble in the next 2. So a US treble or a UK double treble in the next 2. And now we just repeat those 3 all the way to the end of the row. We're going to chain 1, skip 1, and then our long treble stitch into the next 2. Again, we repeat those 3, chain 1, skip 1, and then a treble into the next 2. Repeat those 3 again, chain 1, skip 1, and a treble into the next 2. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it sounds like that aeroplane's going to land in my back garden. Thankfully it's flown past. And now we come to the last 3 stitches. We repeat the same again, chain 1, skip 1, and then treble in the last 2. And that's row 2 complete. For row 3, we are going to chain 1, and that doesn't count as a stitch, and then we're going to single crochet in each stitch along, so these chains will count as a stitch. So at the end of this row you'll have exactly the same amount of stitches as you began out with, and that's true throughout the whole pattern. It's just a rectangle, so make sure your stitch count stays the same. And you might notice that I'm working into the actual chain stitch as opposed to working in the chain space. I'll show you what I mean when I get to the next one. So you could, and whichever way around you like is fine, you could work into just the chain space like this and it scoops the whole thing up. But I prefer in this instance to work actually into the chain stitch. So you've got that tiny loop below, and it just creates a bit of a symmetrical effect with the rest of the stitches along the row. But however you want to do it is fine. And then a single crochet in the last stitch to complete row 3. So rows 2 and 3 that we have just worked, these long stitches and then your row of single crochets, create the eyelet pattern. And for all of the sizes, you're going to repeat the pattern 5 more times. So that will take you up to from rows 4 to row 13. So if you go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back here when you're ready to start the main section. Once you've got to the end of row 13, which will be twice as much as I've got here, so just ignore how much I have, I'm just ready to show you the next section, you'll be ready to work the middle pattern, I've called it, and row 14 begins with either a stack stitch, as we did before here, or a chain 3 and then a treble into the same, whichever you prefer. So now I will show you the chain 3 and the treble. So chain 3, and that doesn't count as a stitch, and then you're going to treble into that same stitch there, and then that gives you that chain 3 to use for seaming if you'd like to. And then we're just going to work a treble into every stitch along, so a UK treble or a US treble, sorry, or a UK double treble into each stitch along. And that's row 14 complete, and we turn for row 15, and you're going to chain 1 and then just work a single crochet into each stitch along. And so rows 14 and 15 that we have just worked there form the middle section, and you're going to repeat those 2 rows for a different amount of times for different sizes. So do check on the blog or on the pattern how many your size needs, but it's either 12, 13 or 14 more times. But if you'd like to make your top longer, then just keep repeating it until it's the length that you'd like it to be, but bear in mind that you're going to add a cuff section at the bottom. And for the cuff section, all you're then going to do, once you've got to where you'd like your middle section to end, is repeat rows 2 and 3 a total of either 2, 3 or 4 times. So again, you can adjust that. If you don't want to cuff at all, don't just keep working these 2 rows 14 and 15 until you're happy with the length of your top. Or if you'd like a bigger cuff, then work more stitches of rows 2 and 3 at the end of your work, because this is going to be the top of your top, and where you end up and where you finish is going to be the bottom of it. So you can, if you're making it for yourself, hold it up against yourself and see where you'd like it to sit really. Once you've completed your panel by doing your top section, your middle section and your cuff, you're then ready to repeat the whole process again and make a matching back panel. So if you go ahead and make both panels, and then I'll see you back here and we'll talk about seaming. Now you've finished both of your front and your back panels, you're ready to seam them together and create your actual top to wear. So I would begin here by seaming your shoulder seams. So make sure that you have got your correct sides facing, so your stitches run in the same direction. And then the seam can be however you'd like it to be. Here I have just seamed it using the back loops here, so you've got this nice detailing here. You can slip stitch to seam, you can use a single crochet to seam, you can sew them. So for this shoulder seam I had the wrong side facing and I used a slip stitch and then just weaved in my ends. As you see, I weave in quite tightly. I'm always frightened of ends popping out. And the pattern will tell you how many you need to join. So for example, for an extra small size, you would need to join 12 stitches at the side, and then that would give you the right size neck hole in the middle. And then you would need to join the other side with 12 stitches as well. Having said that, everyone likes their neck hole slightly differently, so just seam an even amount either side and just try it on and see how it looks and see how you'd like your neckline to sit. And then to seam the sides, all I've done here is beginning at where the middle section starts, so you just ignore your cuff section at the bottom so that this can now sit open and sort of flap over your hip section. Starting here, I slip stitch this, but you can sew it, you can single crochet it, you can do what you like with it to make a nice neat seam. And I seamed up along the side. Again, the pattern in the blog will tell you for 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 rows, whatever feels comfortable for you, to then have this armhole. And the armhole is deliberately quite deep. So I envisaged this top as a nice light spring or summer top with maybe like a little camisole vest underneath, so your armhole can be quite loose. But if you want it to be higher, just carry on seaming to the point that feels comfortable for you. I hope you've enjoyed my little run through of the stitch and how to join your top together. Please do go find the pattern for free on my blog or purchase the PDF if you'd like to print it and keep it. And if you make the top, then let me know. I'd love to see your finished tee. I'm on Ravelry, Instagram, Facebook, email. Just let me know. I would really love to see your tops. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to subscribe and tap the bell button, then you'll get notified when I release new patterns and tutorials. And I will see you soon. Bye!